Okay, sounds good. So, and if you want, you can mute yourself. Sometimes there'll be an echo and stuff, but feel free to unmute when you're back on. I'm hearing some background music, so. But anyway, I'm in QuickBooks Online Accountant. Hopefully, this is what you're using as well, right? So I got a bunch of clients here, the name of the firm, and then we'll kind of go down this list here on the left. I probably won't cover everything unless there's something specific, but definitely we want to look at team, the work tab. Now, so I'm not really sure what that is. It sounds like someone's moving chairs around or something, or maybe a garbled conversation. Are you guys hearing that too?
I have my phone on mute. Let me talk to him.
Okay,
hold on.
me too.
Woody, should we be seeing your mouse move around?
Oh yeah, I was waiting until the background noise went away. Cool. Sounds like it's good. Yeah, so my mouse. So I have clients listed here. Now, do you guys already have a QuickBooks Online Accountant with some clients in it? I'm assuming, Flo, do they already have that?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
they do.
Thanks. So it might look different from mine. There's kind of two different kind of lists out there, but the status column, the little meatball gets you into QBO, and that might be to the left of the name, but you guys might have it, with clients listed. And mine, we surface up some bookkeeping information, mostly around bank feeds, which we'll also take a look at today. Payroll, if you have it. You can kind of customize the list by clicking on the little gear icon. So if you want to show, what you need to see for columns on the list. But yours might be a little bit different depending on when you started QBOA. But when you drill into the client name itself, it'll give you some specifics. You can put in some notes on the client that only you and your staff see. The clients obviously do not have access to QuickBooks Online Accountant at all. And then, some bookkeeping info, mostly around account balances, current, when it was last reconciled. Anything blue, you can drive into the actual client file, right? So plus, this is a subscription level. I'll show you different ways to see that. Unaccepted transactions, that's the bank feed. So we will be spending time on bank feeds and bank rules when we get into the client file, because that's just a great way to get data in. And what are some of the best practices there? And then changes to reconciled, right? So we're going to just surface up some minor info just so really maybe a little bit about the health of the client books. And then you have payroll, shared docs, we'll get to it a bit, and tax.
Excuse me.
And yes, go ahead, please.
On my screen, I'm not seeing your cursor move around.
Huh. Let me stop sharing, and then I'll reshare out. Let me know now if you're seeing it. My mouse is moving. Made it a little bigger. Is everybody not seeing it?
I'm seeing it. This is Gina.
I'm seeing it.
And Shuba.
Okay.
It looks like she left the meeting.
No, it's just kind of frozen. Do I have to go back in again?
Maybe you can just reload the page. If you reload the page, maybe it'll unfreeze your monitor.
No, I'm totally frozen.
Okay. Well, we can wait. Let me know. I can't do anything to help you with the freezing of the screen, especially if other people are able to see it. I usually just reload the page when it happens, or yeah, you could log out and then log back in sometimes. Maybe try a different browser, like if you're using Firefox, maybe try Chrome, or maybe try Internet Explorer.
Yeah, that's just me. Okay, we're just gonna huddle around Gina's machine since she went in using the link.
Okay, cool. Well, sorry about that, but hopefully it'll, be fairly comfortable for you guys. So just to backtrack, so you have the client list, right? Your list of clients here. You can drill into a particular client just to see information about the client, notes, bookkeeping info. Anything blue will drive you into the QBO subscription. You can remove the client permanently from your list and literally break the connection, in the manage users with the QBO file by delete permanently. Only the master admin of QBOA can do that. Or you can make inactive, will just kind of remove the client from the list if it's only a seasonal client, or, and you're not really doing much with them throughout the year, things like that. So, and then edit client to change their name and some other information. So I'm not in their books yet, but I can just drill into the client page, if you will, and see some info. And then you have the overall dashboard. I typically will click on the QB icon to get into QBO. And that's what I'll be doing. That's where you can also see the level of QuickBooks Online that they have, right? Now, probably the best thing I think about QBOA is how everybody at the firm, works with all of your QuickBooks Online clients. There's probably just one QuickBooks Online accountant that maybe James or Peter signed up for, or Shuba or something, and you don't each of you need a QBOA. A QuickBooks Online accountant. There's just one for the firm. You'll have all your clients listed there, so it's a consolidated list. You can all work off it, but you're all invited to the firm QBOA using your email address. Now, there is some restriction with this. So I'm not sure, you guys are probably already invited at this point, but just so you know, everybody comes in with their own email, right? Same QBOA, but I can choose what clients, the staff will see when they log in. So Ray when she logs in, she only sees like 7 or 8 of our clients for whatever reason. If she needed to see another client, like was going to start on Larry's online services, I would just check it off, click save. And then she would, when she logs into QBOA, using her email address and password, she would see this 10th file, on her list. So you can control that there. Firm administration and books. Administratively, there's just not a lot in QBOA, right? I mean, we'll talk about wholesale billing, but for Ray, I've set her at a very basic level. There's full basic and custom. So when she logs in, she has no ability to add QBO subscriptions, see the firm credit card for wholesale billing, add other staff, can't see the Your Books file. We give you a free QBO Plus file that you can use at some point for the firm books if you want, and then you can keep your staff out of it. So I just wanted to make sure, though it's not a lot of administrative breakdown, let's say on a staff member, I can prohibit Ray from, the key areas or features or duties, I would say, of QBOA. That being said, any client she has access to, she is a company admin, essentially, on that particular QBO client. So she can pretty much do everything in that client file. Everything from payroll to bank feeds, registers, company financial reporting, etc. So you're all by default really a company admins on these client files, but you can go into the team page to invite all your staff and then restrict them at a pretty fundamental level. Right? So, but this is why, let me open up, let me go into just a QBO file just as a client would. So you can see kind of the difference. Because none of us, and I mean us, meaning accountants, bookkeepers, firm staff that are managing QBO clients or working in QBO, should be going in as the client, right? That's really just for the client. We need to be going in from QBOA. So my email address, my main Intuit email, is linked to a lot of QuickBooks Online accountants. You might only just have the one, right? You might not even see a list when you log into QBO. But we don't want to be going down here. This is like for our clients. This is just the QuickBooks books companies. But they're all rolled up, under the QBOA. So you're going in through QBOA, not QBO, if you will. Just want to make sure that's clear, right? I mean, the firm's using QBOA. You're going into the client file. The client file is QuickBooks Online, but your client's just going in like this, Now, the reason why I mention this is there's a user aspect to this, because you will get in the future, if not already, new clients to the firm that already have QBO. So how do you get them in your QBOA? You know? So you'll just have them go to manage users under the gear icon and invite whoever is the main person or whoever they know at the firm. When that person accepts the invite, let's say it's Susan, then she'll accept the invite and it adds it to the QBOA. And then Susan can choose what staff will see it. So this is for QBO subscriptions that are already existing, like not new, but they're new clients to the firm, but they already have QBO Essentials or Simple Start or Plus or Advanced, so, or even Self-Employed. So they invite the accountant. When you accept the invite, it adds it to the firm QBOA. You only really need one of you. I mean, unless you're networking with another firm, typically there's just one. But this is why this client's on my list, right? Because they invited me. Or when I created the subscription from QBOA, it put my accounting, email, put my email in there. Any questions on, adding existing subscriptions to QBOA or just the user connection that the firm has with the client?
No, we're good.
I have a question.
Okay, good. Yeah, please.
The QuickBooks online app, is that how we access our accountant version of the online version?
No, that's great. So there's several ways. You can do Google Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, or you could do this app. If you're more used to desktop, let's say, a lot of accountants will start out with the app. Notice I have Enterprise and I have Premier Accountant Edition, and then the app is just says QuickBooks. You download it, it's free. And I can get you the link, or you might already be using it. And it doesn't take long to install. It's not as big as like Premier Accountant Edition, which is like 600 to 800 megabytes. This is like a, 20 megabyte file that gets installed. Let me restore it.
Does access our account, our QBA account, right?
Yes, totally, you can. And I will, once I get in, I still prefer the browser, but the app is really cool because, see, I'm still in Cleanbooks, right? Do the client list and everything. I'll update later. Do the update, do it, because we just launched the ability to be in multiple company files within the app. So, like, I can click, right, it looks like QBOA, right? So it looks exactly like it, but it is an app on your computer. I can click on the meatball or the drop down, dive into the file, either way. And then I'll show you in the app, it's kind of cool. You can open up other client files too with the plus sign. Like you open a new tab. So I'm in this file here, right? And there's a drop down of all my client files, so I could quickly change, right? I don't have to go back to QBOA. I can just click it, or I can go plus sign.
Do it on another tab.
Yes. And so this is like the app is becoming a little more appealing to me because of this. Before I was pretty much staunch Google Chrome or Firefox, and that's what I'm used to. But literally, I'm going to go into a different file here, and I'm in Cloud Collaboration here, but I'm going to launch into a different file there. I guess I have to install the update though, but I would, because we always push out like fixes to this app. So make sure when you get, I didn't do it just for essence of time with us here today, but when you see that pop up to install the update, just like you're opening up like QuickBooks 2017 and you see install release, same kind of deal. Two different files, so.
No, one of our clients said that it was quicker to access through the app. That's why I asked.
The benefits for that he's probably talking about is you don't have to sign out. Like I can exit, and then when I open it, it'll bring me back to the file.
Pulls me back where I left off, right?
Yeah, right. Yep. And then he might like windows that pop open in their own window. Maybe I need, that one seemed to open in this. Maybe there's a setting I need for the window and all the front. I'll have to play around with it, but typically when you open things from here, they open in their own window. So I'm not sure why it's doing that. There must be some setting I don't have turned on. And then I just use my system tray to kind of toggle back and forth, or my open window list, if you will, would be my system tray. But Not sure why it's not doing that. There's got to be some setting. I don't know if it's like bring all to front or.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So let's try this invoice. There we go. Pops open. So, yep, good stuff. Any other questions regarding the app itself?
No.
Okay, so there, it's that, but you can be in multiple files now, something to consider. Okay. Are you using have you gone into the Pro Advisor? Any questions around Pro Advisor benefits or the training, certification?
Well, you can go into it and basically do it on your own time, right?
Oh yeah, totally. And it'll tell you how many points the firm has, and then all the benefits are listed. You just click into what you want to learn more about and visit whatever. It'll have a tab over on the right.
Go ahead and go a little bit more.
Yes.
Go ahead and go a little bit more into the Pro Advisor.
Of course. Each of you, because in regardless, you don't have to be a desktop Pro Advisor. Some of you might be because you've been using it for a long time, or you are, to get like Accountant Edition or whatever. But each of you, because you've been invited to the firm QBOA, you're automatically an online Pro Advisor. That's free. There's no extra cost for that. And like the cumulative points you will get, and this is how you earn points, will be the points of the firm, and then it'll be gold, platinum, or elite, depending on the point system. And then depending on your level, you can go through the benefits and click on the things that interest you, or if you need like support, for example, you can start a chat right from here. There's the direct number to Pro Advisor support here in Tucson. Training, right? Online training certification. This will take you to Explore Training, different webinars that are available, and then software and services discounts that you can get for clients, and things like that. So you would just click on it and then subscribe, or whatever the action item will be respective to the area you are in. And then when you go in, James, you'll see like a history, like how did I get all these points? Right. So it'll tell me, like a 1 self-employed, I got 14 QBO subs, 16 full service subs, 1, et cetera. So that's why I have 24, 25, or what have you. So over time, cumulative by all of the staff that do things within QBOA or with clients, with Pro Advisor, then the points will accumulate.
What do we get?
I'm sorry?
Is it like a credit card? We get some cash back?
No. I know it kind of looks like that, doesn't it? No, I think it's just
Sounds like
it's no credit card affiliation. However, it just gives you different levels of the Pro Advisor tier based on the points, and then you can see marketing, tools, different level of support, training, and we're probably going to add and build more into here. So
as we accumulate points as a company, we get to see more features and use more, or access.
And not really, access to more benefits, I would say.
Benefits, but not features.
Correct. This wouldn't turn on any extra like features or improve robustness within a QuickBooks Online workflow for a client or something. Right.
Everybody gets the same feature.
Right. Yeah. We'll go into QBO and look at all the different features, but yeah, it's just mostly around marketing and growing your practice type benefits. And then if you are a desktop Pro Advisor, you come in here too to download your software, right? So click download. It'll take you to our website to download the QuickBooks Accountant Edition or Enterprise Accountant.
So it takes us to our Intuit account.
Right. Yes, exactly. Like if I click download, it'll bring me to camps.intuit.com. And then, my email's linked to a lot of different accounts, so I'd have to choose the right one. But, it's probably this one maybe. So if I had desktop, I would see the desktop application I could download and install. Yep. So, and then training, if you're going to get certified in QuickBooks Online, you click on the training tab. That will log you into accounts.intuit.com based on your email, and it'll bring up your status for certification as well as some other things. So we have an accountant university. There's CPE training that you can go to. So all the different training options. And then if you scroll down to like the middle area, you'll see the QBO certification where you could download a certificate for the website or whatever, business card, what have you, and then you have the advanced certification,
What's the cost?
as well as some specialty courses. I'm sorry?
What's the cost related to QuickBooks?
That's free.
Okay.
Yep. So the whole QBOA, the only thing you're paying for is if you guys under wholesale billing are paying for the client's QuickBooks Online subscription or their payroll or any third-party apps. That's not, other than that, for the firm, regardless how many staff are in QBOA, regardless how many pro advisor, training, certification, not desktop, but QBO related. That's all. There's no cost for that.
Okay.
So even like the Slack integration and work, which we can go over a little bit, that there's no cost for that either. I don't know if you guys use Slack internally to communicate, but we give you a free subscription to that too. Cuts down on email. We can go over it briefly if you want. But so everybody can come in and get trained on QBO, and you would just click Get Started, right? Specialty courses, desktop courses if you're, desktop pro advisor, and then all your training and certification history would be here. Now, another thing to mention would be the profile. Once you get certified, you'll see the little person icon in the upper right. And you do want to fill these out as best you can, particularly if you're wanting to market, the firm and what they do to prospective clients that go to the Find a Pro Advisor site. It's like $40,000 a month. So some will be in your area or looking for some help in QBO or desktop. So James, are there pro advisors already within the firm that have a public profile?
I'm a pro advisor. I'm not sure if I have a public profile. Yeah, I am.
Okay. Now, once you get certified in QBO, you can go ahead and publish it, but usually people will put a picture and then fill out some unique things about, filling out the more data you can put in, I guess the better it turns out. What services does the firm support? Industries served, software expertise. Check off all the ones and any credentials you have. So this is what they would see on the Find a Pro Advisor site. And if enough of you are certified in QBO and you build out your profile and publish it, then they'll see in the zip code, 3, 4, 5 of you. So on the list. And then we track profile views, leads, and any inquiries against the profile from prospective clients.
Okay.
Okay.
It doesn't go public until we publish it ourselves, right?
Correct. You have to toggle this switch that says include in search results.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and you can preview it before you toggle that switch. Now, all right. Any questions regarding Pro Advisor?
No, I don't have any.
If you were certified Pro Advisor on the desktop, the quickest way to come up to, let's say, 2019, I kind of let my Pro Advisor certification lapse back in 2014. So,
yes.
So would the right way to go about this, or the smartest way, is to just go ahead and get a QBO for 2019, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, if you have no intention of because I'm no longer a desktop pro advisor either. I mean, my focus, though I still install it and still do like a handful of trainings a year on it, like 1 or 2 even. Sometimes I have to go look at it for whatever reason, but to answer questions, but I'm solely focused on QBO. So I let that lapse probably 2 years ago. And So I just got QBO certified,
For free.
you know, and that's free, and it gets you to it gives you all the benefitability of like marketing yourself or as a representative of the firm on the Find a Pro Advisor site, right? So it is the fastest way, as opposed to like going through the desktop cert, which will take way longer, that test anyway, versus say the QBO test is probably 2 to 3 hours of your time versus like 5 for desktop, depending. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you bet, of course. Now, the work tab, are you all using or have you come into the work module at all in QBOA yet?
Not us, I don't know about James.
Do you already use like an engagement tracking software? Do you want to cover this? Because this allows me to create projects and track them, assign them to staff, assign them to the clients, and I can see like who's working on what, when something is due, as well as a file transfer.
You can pass on this. We have our own project tracker.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And then apps, there's third-party apps. We just kind of put apps.com within QBOA just so that you could, you know, browse by a category. Because sometimes you might have a client that really needs heavier manufacturing, but they still want to be mobile. So I need someone that does build assemblies or sales order fulfillment or something like that. Then I could, you know, get SOS inventory for that client, you know, and click Get App Now, and then just choose the client I'm going to install it on. And then there's, you know, third-party apps have a subscription too. You know, and sometimes they have like a Pro Advisor, I would say a QBOA discount. Sometimes they don't. Depends on the app. There's hundreds of apps that solve for different feature needs, depending on the niche you all support. For core stuff, you won't need an app, but sometimes you might. So you can just, basically you're able to just filter and look by industry, what is really the best app for whatever the category might be. Everything from e-commerce to CRM to job costing, which is actually, you might not even really need an app for that soon. So anyway, all right, so that's really QBOA. I would point out though that the Your Books file is the file we give the firm. So you also get a file for the firm books. But a lot of firms will just keep their books on QBA, right? So, and they don't move it up to the cloud yet, and that's fine. So eventually, you might convert from QuickBooks Accountant Edition or Enterprise or whatever you're using for the firm to the Your Books file at QBOA, and then like I showed you in the team page, you can choose what staff can see it or not. But until then, just leave it alone. It's not meant to be like a sandbox or a training ground, because the customer list is the same, a mirror image of the client list, right? So you don't want to import anything in here, really. So I usually just leave it alone until I'm really using it.
Does the Your Books have, I guess, more features for our firm to use within the app?
No, it's just a QBO subscription. It's just a QuickBooks Online subscription that you could put your books on one day. You know, like some firms will actually use it to invoice their clients, or they'll turn QuickBooks Payments on and like do a recurring sales receipt so that, you know, it's a recurring debit from the client's account for the services. They roll in the QBO fee. So some firms do leverage this file to bill their clients and then track expenses, run reports. But it's no different features than, say, your client would have.
Okay.
So I would just qualify, leave it alone until you're really ready to use it, right? There is a practice ground that you can play with under the gear icon, the sample file. So there's some good canned data in there. It's a landscaping business, but it resets itself whenever you leave it. So it's not like, you know, you're going to see the data you entered yesterday in there the next day. So, but it's good to do lunch and learns, and it's got some bank feed info and a lot of other data to run reports. So there's that.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Woody, can I interrupt you just a little bit? I'm trying to get my head around, you know, on the desktop, you have the construction version, the manufacturing version, you know, the various versions. How is all that incorporated into QBO?
Well, you don't have specific versions in QBO.
Okay.
Right? We'll dive into the client file. You have different levels, like self-employed, which is really for Schedule C, contractors. You have Simple Start, Essentials, Plus. Most of your clients will be on Plus, and we have Advanced now. We'll probably add more advanced type features going forward. Plus is going to be most like QuickBooks Pro, akin to Pro. There's no like industry specific reporting or really feature set wise in QuickBooks Online. You're just at the level you have feature set wise, depending on the level you have. Yeah.
So it's like up to the Pro and not Premier either.
Yeah, but there are some things that are better than Premier, like the price level list or price rules, because there's a date range you can put in, and the automation of data entry is better. The bank feeds are better, and the rules are better. It's mobile, so I can use the phone, right? So there's some advantages to just in QBO versus desktop, on top of just no file transfer, no portable file, accountant's copy. It's easy to log into the client's books, et cetera. Doesn't matter what year they have, right? I mean, all that I just assume we all agree on is great. But it's this other stuff we can look at around automating data entry that Premier doesn't do, or Enterprise, really. But I think from a feature set standpoint, it's really akin to Pro. So let me ask you this, and I can go a little deeper on that, that might help you visualize it better or make it more relatable to you. Do you do a lot of, like, have clients using Premier Manufacturing Wholesale, Premier Contractor, Nonprofit?
I have one that's having a lot of problems with her QuickBooks Manufacturing 2016.
Okay. So let's just align on, what are the main differences? There's going to be subtle differences, right? But the main difference is, let me see if I probably don't have it. I'll probably just have to list it. No, there it is. I still got it. Here. Let's align on this. Hope you guys are seeing this slide. Like features not in desktop, features in desktop, not in QBO, and then features in QBO, not in desktop. So I do these group webinar series that are for like more business workflow, specifically product-based business. So a lot of item tracking, inventory, stuff like that. And then I do service-based business workflows for like pass-through time, material expense, job costing, and how you get QBO Plus to do that. And my contention is I'm always comparing QBO Plus to QuickBooks Pro. I just think that they're very similar now, except with just the estimate to actual reporting is not in QBO yet. Other than that, and not having Loan Manager, but nobody really uses that, they're pretty much very comparable, QBO Plus to Pro. Notice on this deck, or this slide, I have broken down the main key areas where desktop still has an advantage, which is around job costing, but only for a little while longer, and then inventory. So I don't know how many inventory clients you have. Everything in blue, though, that's not in Pro either. You need Premier or Enterprise for those. Like Pro doesn't have any sales order fulfillment, right? It doesn't have multiple units of measure. It has a single unit of measure. I would say the only thing Pro has that QBO doesn't is the estimate to actual reporting, when you're doing jobs, tracking jobs, and you created your estimate, and, you can run these reports to see the estimated cost and revenue to the business and the actual cost and revenue to the business, right? QBO, there's workarounds for that, and we're also like adding that in as we speak, really. It's rolled out slowly. I have the beta already. But there's also features in, yeah, go ahead.
So basically, it's the operational features that one would use on a client level, not necessarily in an accountant's office.
Yes, that's a great way to say it. I probably couldn't have said it better. Operationally, QBO is still more like Pro, not yet like Premier. Core accounting-wise, there's really not much of a difference. It's T-charts, double entry accounting, AR, AP. The core reports are there. Item tracking, class tracking, whatever you're doing with your clients in Pro, except for that report, you're able to do in QBO Plus, or even Essentials on some, So, and the reason why Plus matters, let's go back to, is because of class tracking. I'm sure in some of your Pro Premier clients, you're doing class tracking, right?
Yeah, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
James, really, I'm just trying to understand. Are we on QBO Plus or QBO?
We're going to be on QBO Plus, some of your clients, for most of them.
Right.
QBO Plus.
Well, remember, yeah. Remember, you guys, and let's back up. I can answer that too, James, and feel free to weigh in. And because you all are coming into QBOA, you're managing clients that like, and what James has said is actually typical of most firms. Most of your clients that are using QuickBooks Online are going to be on Plus because the feature set is most akin to QuickBooks Pro, and I find to be a most viable feature set for most small businesses.
Right.
The third-party apps come into play if they need something heavier and, well, I don't want to install Enterprise. And plus, I can get QBO and some app for like a third of the cost of Enterprise with advanced inventory. I mean, those conversations come up. So to James's point, yeah, probably most of the clients will be on Plus because you do class tracking and you got to have Plus or Advanced for class tracking, not Essentials. So, but you are, as staff, you're coming into QBOA. And while it's good to have your clients on Plus, they could also be in Essentials. They're still going to be on your list, right? You're just going to, you can hover over and see, like, I think this is an Essentials client, but most of my clients are Plus, right? I'm just hovering over the QB meatball there, and I can see when it's canceled or whatever. But anyways, most of them are Plus. So Plus, why it matters is it has, really it's about the class tracking, and we'll run a P&L by class. I'll show you where you set that up, and it even though the forms look different in QBO, it's still the same, like, thematically. What am I trying to do? What's the end game here? Oh, I'm trying to get to this particular departmental report of an income statement. Well, I can do that in QBO. I don't have to install, like, Premiere to do that. Do you know what I mean? So, also, two-sided items, billable time expense, being able to pass, billable expense material, being able to pass that through, and then budgeting, inventory. Those are the main reasons for Plus, right? So not in Essentials.
So
Okay.
with the QBOA, I can do class tracking.
Yes, because again, you're going to be in the client file. So right now I'm in this cloud collaboration file, one of my clients. They are a Plus level subscription.
Okay.
Right? I'm in there from QBOA because, I mean, even though it looks the same as my client view would have, I have like this overview tab so I can, check out the company setup, the banking activity, what are the common issues. I got like 178 transactions in undeposited funds, which is a nightmare. So, I mean, the client's not going to be able to see stuff like this, like opening balance equity, right? Well, we don't want to balance in QBO either. Like you don't want one in desktop in the chart of accounts, but I have over 26K. So I'm going to need to work on this client. I have 15, et cetera. We surface up some of the common mistakes clients will make. Your clients never see this kind of stuff. Also, if you notice, you have a drop down where you can go in and out of different client files, right? So I don't have to go back to the accountant and then back in. And then there's the toolbox, which we might as well just start with that and do some navigation tips and tricks, look at bank feeds and reporting. But I just want to be clear that while most of your clients will be Plus, you're still coming in from QBOA with, Susan, Shuba, James, Peter, everybody there will be coming in from the same QBOA, probably working on different clients, but you probably have the same client list as everybody else in the office. And it doesn't really matter what level of QBO a client has because you're going to see them in your client list. It's just that it works out. Most of your clients will be on Plus, some Essentials.
Okay.
Is that a better way to tell this story?
I think the light is getting brighter here.
Well, tell me where it's still stuck. I want to make sure we're aligned here because if this part is tough, then it's gonna stick with you and nag at you while I'm going through the presentation, and you might miss something else. So, how else could I answer this?
No, I think we're okay because what I just wanted to be really clear is that I should be able to do all of my accounting stuff. But in addition, with the QBO, I can now look at the level or the quality of data that the client is managing, and then perhaps go out and advise them. So on a marketing sales standpoint, I now have an added tool in addition to me as an accountant doing all the work for them.
Exactly. Again, I could not have said that any better. You are in their data file right now. It's not like a version of their file or some copy they sent you 6 weeks ago and their file's just totally messed up and you've cleaned it all up, but their file's still messed up. You know what I mean? This is their books. There is no other version of cloud collaboration. This is the data. And yeah, so I'm seeing now, granted, my client has done a lot of nifty stuff just in the past day. It was not this bad yesterday. But however, this is good stuff that surfaces up to me so I know what's going on. You also have a toolbox for a lot of things. You can, for when they miscode, you probably use this tool in Accountant Edition. They might miscode transactions to the wrong account. So you could move them. You could reclassify them. 1 second here. You know, if this is supposed to be a different account, you can batch or classify. So if Woody wrote a bunch of bills to the wrong account, I can change it. You know, that kind of stuff. Or you can do some class tracking. If class tracking has not yet been done, you know, I can add a class in batch. So some batch assignment, if you will. Things like that. So there's this. Yeah, go ahead.
Where did you get to this? This is under just reclassified. Is it under the gear? Or is there? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually under, yeah, we'll go over the left-hand panel plus sign gear, but this is when you're in a client file, you have this lunchbox, like right to the next to the client name. And
Okay.
we have several accountant tools here. Now, when you come into a client, James, you might click on report tools and change the date. So it's like we're looking at probably last year cash. Now what that'll do, and I'm going to right click the tab, while the app for QBO does open windows nicely, I'm so used to using Chrome at this point that I probably would never use the app myself, but I definitely encourage it. We were in it earlier. But I right click and duplicate the tab I'm on, which gives me another window. So now I have a second window. And now I can go to like reports. And when I run a P&L, we'll go over reporting, all the buckets. It defaults to last year cash basis. So your company financial summary reports will default to that. You just right clicking, duplicate. Now I can do the balance sheet, right? I tend to, let me do one more. The report list itself, right? These are the buckets, right? So standard reports. What it's like business overview would be like company financial on desktop, you know. P&L, balance sheet, statement of cash flow, a bunch of different comparative profit and losses, budgets, budget to actual would be in here, audit log report, which we'll look at. But the ones that I open like every day, I star, or every week, because it puts them up in the favorite section. So it's just, that's like my report list, if you will. So I suggest that, because it's a north-south scroll on this. You just scroll down. Who owes you? Obviously AR, accounts receivable, right? Customer balance, sales and customer reports. So there's like 80 plus reports in plus. I'm sorry?
I said it's in layman's terms.
Yeah, again, focused on the, I think you'll find a lot of it is focused on the small business to make it easier for them. Figuring the accountant will be able to, you know, adapt in the different language, you know, what they're trying to do, because you're more used to QuickBooks in general, right?
So who sets the security levels or the
of the users?
privilege? No, the privilege levels. For example, if I'm running a small business, I really wouldn't want my accountant going in there and deleting some of my customers. So I would want to set some restrictions as to what my accountant can do and not do.
Yeah, and like I mentioned up at the front is team members of a QBOA. They're essentially a company admin, and they can do anything in the file except delete the master admin. So that would just be good feedback I could send up to the team. We are looking at more granular permissions at the team staff level of QBOA. But just in general, like if we go back to manage users, and James, I think it was James had mentioned the gear icon. So like account and settings is like edit preferences, manage users, right? The user list. Got a bunch of other lists. Products and services is the items list. And we'll look at audit log and reconcile the account and settings. I'm sorry, wrong one. Manage users, we'll come back to that. Just if we look at user security, there's nothing that the client can do as the master admin to restrict you.
What if the client is already on QuickBooks Online? They send us an invite. They cannot restrict us to what we can do?
Correct. Correct. Currently at this time, you're essentially a company admin. So even though go ahead.
Sure, but don't worry about us being restricted. The whole idea as an accountant, you should know how to do it. Okay? And if you do accidentally do something, you can restore it.
Yeah.
Okay? So this should be a non-issue. From our perspective.
Yeah, within QBO, at the QBO level, like you guys are all company admins. And Plus has reports only users, Plus and Advanced. And then Essentials has time tracking, and so does Plus. These users don't count against the overall limit. So there's that. But a standard user, right, it's basically all with or without payroll, or they could be limited. Not you, but just, their employees within, your client's employees, they'll be setting them up this way, so they can restrict them to certain areas and like sales only person, whatever, right? So, or all user because they need to do registers, bank feeds, run reports, but you don't want them to see payroll. So there's that. And we're building this out more to be a little more granular even at the client level. But it's pretty fundamental right now what you're seeing.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you guys are just default company admins. So, and like James said, yeah. So anyway, let's look at just some other navigation things. So we have some reports going, and you know how to duplicate the tabs. The sections are pretty obvious. The dashboard is a dashboard, and we're just going to have some cards there, mostly around income and expense, P&L, some bank account amounts, right? You'll have a tasks or reminders up top. You can't yet customize the dashboard, right? So, but I can change like the date range if I want to look at last year expenses or something. So, they're just widgets really. Banking is actually bank feeds and bank rules. So it's not like the banking menu in, say, QuickBooks Accountant Edition, right? It's just really, I'm connected to a checking account and a credit card account. Now, have you guys set up bank feeds, or are you using bank feeds at all with clients now in QBO?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. How's it going?
Going good, y'all. I like the fact that y'all expanded the bank rules from just 6 months ago. It's easier to do them now.
Yes, and you can even export them to like industry clients or clients that have the same vendors or share similar vendor lists or something. The rules are great. When you're seeing stuff in the feed, you're going to start creating rules so that we automatically will categorize it with the right account, the right payee, right split, right class, location. And then there's a newish, if you will, feature of automatically adding it to the book. So the conditions are, you create a rule. When you're starting to see, Woody does, he purchases from his Google ads every month. It's $39.99. It's always the same. So you'd create a rule on that. QBO will remember the feed from the first time you work on it, but I create a rule for everything that I can. When a transaction meets any of these conditions, when the feed comes in, the description is typically the payee. So if that's Google, or the bank text, which would be the bank detail, we'll say Google. Then QBO is going to create a credit card transaction, an expense, to this account for this class and location with the default memo. And if this particular transaction doesn't need to be reviewed, I can check the box to automatically add to the books. It just puts it right into the register. So I don't really even have to review it. And you can get real creative with rules. There's different rules that I'll have for like Amazon, because I have 2 different Amazon rules, really 3. I have up to $50 as office supplies, but anything over 500 is other current asset. It's R&D. So by amount, when it knows it's Amazon, assuming all of the conditions are met here, QBO will create that. But I don't automatically add that one. I wait and then I put it in. I accept it in batch with the others that I've approved.
Okay, excuse me for a second, I have a question.
Yeah.
I see that you have all your accounts set up, but they're not numbered, like a typical chart of accounts for an account would be. Is that going to be?
Some are.
Okay.
Some of mine are. I just didn't put a number in that one, But it's a good question. I'll show you. You can definitely turn account numbers on. It's a setting. I just did that one quickly on the fly without doing a number. So there's several settings. Yeah. Where are you? Here, enable account numbers and then show them. So you'll check those off. And that way, when I go to my chart of accounts, under accounting, chart of accounts reconcile, right? So chart of accounts, I have all the numbers here, but not all accounts have the numbers. So I'd have to just click, edit and then fill out the numbers that I want. You guys will have this set up, your files set up way better than mine, right?
Okay.
So, but it is numeric, and that's the order actually. So the chart of accounts is in order within each type, either by number, sequentially, or alphabetical.
And the bank feeds don't have a problem with numbers on online?
No, because the bank's never going to give you the bank feed's never going to know the account number, right? The bank doesn't know what number you put for an account in the chart of accounts in a QBO file, right? It's just sending you the data. But when you set up the rule, I could choose an account that has a number if you want.
Okay.
Right? I just don't have numbers for R&D, but I could easily quickly go into R&D and
because one of my clients has the manufacturing desktop and version of QuickBooks, and she has a lot of problems with her bank feeds.
in something specific?
Right. Someone in support told her that because her chart of accounts was numbered, that the bank had a problem signing the fees. So they go in and enter it every month and allocate it to the correct transaction that was not posted.
So it's not choosing the right account?
Manufacturing desktop version.
Okay. But still, desktop has rules too. Has she set up a rule for it?
I didn't get that heated conversation with her.
Okay. Yeah, desktop has a rules module as well. So that can help. Rules can help with most things, not like checks, because rarely do you see the payee. So it's really hard to create a rule just on an amount, because that could be anybody. You really need some other detail or description that would prove it would be the payee or something. And checks usually don't come down that way. However, soon we are going to be allowing the download of the statement. The bank statement will come into the feed, so you can have that open in another tab, right? And that should help with checks. But for really credit card, debit card purchases, and even some revenue, the rules are great. Typically do suggest rules for the most part. But some stuff, rules just don't work, so I just leave them alone. And I do those.
Any check payout?
Yeah. I missed that. Did you say any check payout?
Right. Any vendor payments that were just supposed to be paid out that month. Any checks that were written to vendors or whomever, not credit cards or not ACH, how does the bank handle that when it comes to that?
Right. So a lot of times I don't do much with checks, but I know you have many clients that will. So checks, the payee just rarely comes down in the feed. Like the bank just does not provide it. So you just have all these, like a check number, a date, and an amount, and then whatever category it'll default to, usually uncategorized. Sometimes it'll be some asset account, which you know is wrong. But it's just whatever the default we apply to when we just don't have a lot of information. Figuring you're going to click in there and then choose, you know, check number, and then know that eventually it'll be that payee.
So we can't set up rules for checks the way you do for credit cards. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, I've never really seen good rules for checks unless the bank can give you some kind of detail where you could create a rule on. Because again, the thing with rules, it's all about the conditions. So, you know, you want to be able to, in order for this to happen below, the transaction has to meet conditions. Bank text, description, or amount. That's all we can really create conditions on. If the bank could, you know, contain exactly like, if they could send that detail on a check for the payee, then a rule would work. But if it doesn't send the payee, then you can't really do it by amount because, well, I mean, that could be anybody, right? So I don't do many rules with checks at all.
Okay.
It's all around credit card, debit card purchasing mostly. And then, of course, with the checking account feed, I know I'll get checks in there, but a lot of this is debit card expense, sometimes revenue. Sometimes I'll have some revenue in there too. But you'll see stuff that's kind of black. So you would have to choose the right account. If you're seeing this particular Amazon a lot, I might create a rule on it. I actually have a rule which leaves the 50 to 500 uncategorized, because we have several different accounts we might use for that. But up to 50, it definitely goes to office supplies, and then over 500, it's research and development. So that's just an example of as you are working with your client's feed, you'll start to see some trends, and then you'll create rules based on them, based on their purchasing activity. And most of the times it'll work out, sometimes it doesn't, because there's just not enough info from the bank coming down.
So even if they have vendor invoices, you know, that match the payout, the feed wouldn't recognize it. There's no way.
No, it should. Like if I had a bill for $92.69, although Amazon's a poor example, but let's use it. Let's do a bill. When was this? This was 10/15/18, $92.69. Oh, by the way, the plus sign is like the quick way to get to your transactions, right? So I'm just going to do a bill. And they're under related headings, like customer-related transactions, invoice, receive a payment.
Okay.
Bank deposits over here, though, so it's not like the home page map you might be used to in desktop. So it's more like invoice, receive payment, bank deposit, you know, typical AR flow. Receive payment, I'll show you. You get to put it in on deposited funds. Though that's not a default setting. But so customer-related transactions, vendor-related transactions, timesheet activity, other, like journal entry, bank deposit, transfer. So there are 4 columns, and just you can get to some of these in other ways from like the customer list or vendor record or something, but I'm just going to go to a bill. And we'll say 10/15/18, $92.69. Sorry, I have like no short-term memory. So we'll do that. And then now the drawer, right? Any open POs, things like that. Remind you what else is linked to this vendor that you might want to link, you know, add to the bill.
Hey, Woody,
And I think, yes.
Can you minimize my chat box while you're in there so we can see you more?
What chat box?
Yours.
No, I don't have a chat. I don't have a chat box. I can't do that. You do that on the screen. There is a way. I see what you mean. It's like, where is?
It's okay. We moved it over. It's all right.
Yeah, it's just a little arrow. Okay, cool. Sorry. Let's see. Amazon, and we'll say it was office. And you can quick type and stuff will come up and whatever. I mean, typically you wouldn't do a bill for this, right? But still, let's just pretend. I'm going to do October 15, 2018. Yeah. So that, and again, here's location, here's class tracking. So if you guys are doing class tracking, you would add the class. So that's a setting you would turn on. Just to go over this before I move on to look at and see if the match happened in the bank feed, because it should match, so you're not duplicating the expense with the bank feed and there was already a bill. To go back to the original question, sorry it's taking me so long to get there. But location tracking, a little different from class in that you can have one per transaction. So like if I have split lines, well, it's not a good example, but the whole 9269 goes to Texas, but I could have split lines where I could have BB1, BB2, audit, conferences, training, and then when I run a P&L by class, right, I'll see this amount or these amounts split in the columns, just like you would on a profit and loss by class or departmentalization, profit center, whatever. And then you could even do a profit and loss by location. You know, location would be like a higher level profit center, like states or regions, and then class could be something else within the regions, you know, that you're tracking. I'm just talking high level about classes, figuring, you know, you guys said that you're using that in desktop, so you probably will do the same in QBO. But that's where it shows up, right? Just in the same place as desktop would. Form looks different than a desktop bill for sure, but got similar fields: category, description, amount, billable, job, market billable, pass-through time, all that's available. Now, I'm going to hit save and see if the match happened. Hoping it does. Yeah, so ideally, to your original question, what if I have an open bill, the feed comes in, but I don't want to add it to the register because the bill's already there. If I add it, I'm going to duplicate the expense, right? So you will see this green rectangle. It says one record found, and the action. So the bank feed actions are either you add it to the register if it's not in there yet, or you match it to what's already in there so it doesn't duplicate it.
Okay.
So if I click into the feed, you'll see match. Does that make sense? And if this isn't the right one, I can click find other records, and I can go look through all the bills that I have to see, you know, where's that right amount.
So as long as there's
We know.
no choice, it's easier to allocate a bank fee to if it doesn't already do it.
Yes, ma'am. And I think there is a qualification there. I think that it doesn't match it if the date ranges are really far apart. But I forget the cutoff. Is it 3 weeks or a month, or, you know, from when the feed comes in versus the actual entry of the bill or the check. This also works on the revenue side too. You'll have a lump sum deposit come in, and it'll match a payment, right? Or it'll match like 5 invoices or something. So it happens on the revenue side. I'm mostly, in my data, the bank feed is mostly around purchasing. The rules are mostly around purchasing, but you will have revenue come in too, right? It's the bank feed. So you'll see deposits and you got paid. So I just don't have an example of that. But if, you know, spent column, received column. So if I had money in the received column, then I could click find match and look for the invoices or the payments that match that lump sum deposit. So, and then, you know, paying a bill is basically the same as you would, you know, plus sign pay bills. No surprise there. It's just you're going to choose the bills you want to pay by vendor, and it's going to debit AP and credit your checking account, right? The T-chart's always happening too behind transactions, you know. So something's debited, something's credited, always has to balance, or else it won't let you save and close it. All those same rules of desktop are in here too for that kind of stuff. And so any other questions with bank feeds?
No.
Again, practice rules, you know, go slow. When you see something predictable, make a rule out of it. And if, like James, I think it had pointed to, if someone makes a mistake, like Starbucks should not be in here for whatever reason. You know, I can undo it. So the rule might have put it in here automatically. So I can undo it. It literally pulls it out of the register and puts it back in the for review tab. And then I can, you know, take the Starbucks ones, which are personal, shouldn't be in the business file, or whatever the reason is, and I can exclude them. Because the batch functionality, like batch entry, is all at the bank feed level. I mean, you can set up recurring transactions like memorized transactions. You can do that. Set up your templates, QBO auto entry, and there's a way to automatically invoice unbilled activity. So there's that too. So there's auto send forms as well, auto send reports. There's more automation or automatic stuff that happens in QBO versus desktop. But the real batch entry is at the bank feed level. Batch accept, batch modify, batch exclude, batch undo. So you'll find you're going to be spending time in the bank feeds for your clients because it's really the best way to get the data in to get to the report. So rules become really critical in making sure that the category is correct, payee, split, class, whatever. All right. So bank feeds. Anything specific with reporting you want to go over? I was going to go through some key settings that are important to consider.
No, go ahead.
Okay, because you guys do reporting more than me. Just all I can say is star them so they're up in the top section. But under the gear icon, account settings, this is like, for those of you used to desktop, this is edit preferences. To go back to advanced, this is where you turn class and or location on. You have to have plus or QBO advanced for this, not essentials. Automation, as I mentioned, pre-fill forms with previously entered content. This will impact all names, not just vendors, but still, it's helpful when you go to a bill or a check and put in the vendor name, you know, the last account, the last amount comes in kind of thing. And then automatically invoice unbilled activity. This is a global setting that anywhere I've tagged a customer, sub-customer, or project to and check the billable box, QBO will create invoices every Tuesday for any customer that has unbilled time, material, expense, you know, tag to it. Now that might be too much automation for a client, so I usually leave these all off until the client proves me otherwise. The automatically apply credits or bill payments, that will go to the next customer invoice or next vendor invoice in line. So again, do you want more control over what do you want to put on the invoice, or what vendor credit do I want to apply to what bill? Well, uncheck them. So that's one to consider for automation. Project tracking allows you to track projects and project profitability. You got time tracking here. The chart of accounts we kind of went over. You can do a close date if you want. Do you do close dates with desktop files?
Not really.
No.
Okay,
No.
well, then just cancel. So there's that, chart of accounts. And then sales has a lot of settings too. I mean, you're going to be going through here just like you would edit preferences to make sure what your client needs is turned on. It's not all turned on by default. The different things you can track on an invoice, a discount, a deposit. This goes to another current liability account, custom fields. So on sales forms, you know, do you want to turn on inventory or not? There's that. Progress invoicing. You know, you got an estimate, you want to invoice multiple times till it's closed. That's also supported. Do you guys do a lot of job costing with clients?
No.
No, not really. We don't do it. Some of our clients do it. So.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know that you can, you know, run a P&L by job in QBO Plus. They just think it's a desktop thing. There's these expense settings in a Plus and QBO Advanced where I can track expenses by customer, you know, and then mark it billable. And so, I mean, you saw it on a on a bill, but if I was to do, say, a credit card expense as they're entering data, you can do this in the bank feed too. But say I purchased, hired this particular subcontractor for something. Let me see if, no, what is it? It's 1099. Yeah. Outside consultant, $500, but I'm going to pass this through or just tag it to a particular project, so that I'll see it on the P&L when I look at a profit and loss by customer, which is essentially a profit and loss by job.
Yeah.
And then you'll mark it billable if you're going to pass it through to an invoice later on. So and I showed where you can automate that now. So all of that is just because I turned on these two settings. So anyway, those are some of the key settings to consider. Companies just more the name, the industry type, the entity type, EIN, and then go through and, my thing like yours too is just turn on only what they need to start, and then just slowly check off the rest as they grow in workflow, just to keep it simple as possible. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you mind also showing them a little bit about the nonprofit designations? You can change a bit in the settings.
Yeah, thanks, Flo. I know you had mentioned that earlier. Accountant settings, advanced. When you scroll down, you can change the label for customers. So you can do donors, would be one. I actually have a file. This works sometimes, not all the times, but there is a way when you choose like 990 form or a religious nonprofit. I forget what the industry name is in the company settings. There is sorry, I'll show you. It changes the name of the report, like statement of expenditures by vendor or something. Summary. I'm not remembering the name correctly, but it puts the reports in more nonprofit language, and like an invoice is a pledge, a sales receipt would be a donation receipt. The profit and loss is statement of financial expenditures or something. I forget what you guys call that, but balance sheet's like statement of financial position. All right, so let me go try to find this. Hey, sorry, Chad. I just saw your message. I have a nonprofit file in this QBOA. So if I go to settings here, I have a nonprofit form. It was 990, I think, is what it originally had, and nonprofit. And then in advanced, you can change the labeling of the customers. Now, the reports should change, right? So different from maybe some other clients. So I have statement of activity by donor, by location, by class. Statement of activity by month, which I think is really just a P&L, right? I mean, that's probably what it is. Yeah. So let me see if I can get some data in there. Just have nothing for this year. I probably should have done last year, but it's going to be a landscape report and not a lot there. Let me non-zero, on. I can make it a little better. This file goes back quite a way. Let me look at just last year. Oh, come on. Well, anyways, I'll try out 17 and see if I can. Yeah, so statement activity by month, by quarter, statement activity by class, if that's a program, quote unquote, or fund. You can do a profit and loss by class, not a balance sheet by class. Balance sheet would have to be by location. It's worth mentioning, depending on your nonprofit client, because I think Flow City guys do a bit with nonprofits. So we will change the language, and like the customer balance report, donor balance detail, pledges and received payments. That's essentially quote unquote invoices and received payments. All right. So for what?
Fundraising activity.
Fundraising activity. Not a canned report. I'd have to it depends on the setup that I would do. So I'm probably going to create some items that stand for the different fundraising, or I might use class or location and then just run it by class, where a class might stand for a fundraising activity. But I think class is higher level. I might instead do an item and create items for the different fundraising events that you'll use on sales receipts, invoices, or checks, credit card expense. They're linked to the account, so at least on a statement of activity you can filter by product and service. So I could essentially build a statement activity by fundraising report using products and services. So it's all about the setup, kind of like desktop. It's just that the nonprofit version of Premier that you use a lot, that's just canned for that, right? So it goes back to that industry specific. You can build it for the most part using QBO, or there's a third party, but there's not like a canned, version specifically for contractor, manufacturer, nonprofit, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, like desktop, you have so many lists available in fields. You figure out the report you need, you build out the list to get there, and then the transactions get you there, right? So the setup is really critical. It's the same story in desktop, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
they probably have a sample. They probably have a. So, Woody, just to give you a heads up, this is Shuba. I have a hard stop at 3:30, but Jay,
so do I.
Susan, and Gina can carry on.
Yeah, I actually do too.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, so is there anything else you guys wanted to cover? Thanks, Shuba, too, for weighing in and asking all your questions. It really helps me throughout the time. Is there anything else you guys wanted to cover, or James, or others there that are critical for you to know? Do you have questions about from what you saw?
I have one feature I use a lot on the desktop, and I was just wondering where I could find it here. And that's the edit find feature.
So, all right, let me go to edit client. Let me go into my Premier account, because edit client feature. I know desktop pretty well. What's that?
Find.
Oh, edit find. Got it. Thank you. Yes, of course. Edit find. Right. Got it. Control F. Control F. Right. Yeah. Control F. Yep. Got it. QBO. It's more. I'll show you exactly where that would be. Where am I? Right here. Let's go back here. In the candy bar strip at the top, right? You got the plus sign. We got gear icon. Right next to it, search. Left click. First off, this will just quickly show the last 10 transactions, added, edited, or modified in the file, and then any report, A to Z. But there's an advanced search. Click on advanced search, and now you can start looking for bills by vendor, right, et cetera, or amount. If you are looking for something specific, an amount, you have to put in the $sign. That's what I noticed. So like $sign 92.69 will bring me to that bill.
Okay.
All right. Now, for you all, remember, if you're not sure which is being debited, credited, at the bottom where you can make like this a recurring bill, more, transaction journal. This is your Control Y report. Accounts payable credited, office supplies debited, great. But sometimes, it's an invoice or sales tax involved. You got all these different items and moving parts. It's good to see, what was debited, credited. You can see that behind any kind of transaction that's saved. Yeah. So I don't think I have anything really exciting for transaction-wise. You guys always get to see the real fun stuff, you know what I mean? Not me. The real creative data entry you get to see. Sorry, had to. All right, so, you know, this invoice will have probably a lot of debit credits. See, AR debited, all the revenue accounts. I guess there was no sales tax, or that would have been credited too. Should all balance. The journal entry behind. So you have that too at your fingertips.
Right. So for every transaction, you can just go in and see the journal that it created.
Absolutely. What's the T-chart behind it?
Can you go to that transaction?
Yeah, you just click
Double down.
invoice. It'll bring me to it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right. Other questions or?
Where are your journal entries if you just wanted to go in and make journal entries? Is it through
Oh yeah, totally. Plus sign, other, journal entry.
Okay.
And you can mark it adjusting, even though we know by nature they're adjusting. But this is more like playing on the premier level feature, right, that you're used to, where it correlates to some adjusting journal entry report.
Right.
So that this really isn't humor. I just think it's funny because journal entries are adjusting. Anyway, maybe that's just for me. Pretty good accountant joke, though, you got to admit. Yeah.
So reports work the same way on QBA, where you can just double click on a number and it'll just take you down and down and down.
Yeah, the transaction detail, yeah. Starting from a summary report. Let me go to, I don't know, balance sheet.
Yeah.
And then, like, grant funds checking. Or, yeah, or maybe, yeah, just drill on it. It'll turn, and it's a beginning balance. Probably not a good example. Let me try to find a different one. Yeah, but notice how it underlines. It turns it blue. And I don't know if you guys can see it. Let me make it a little bigger. It underlines it and makes it blue. Because, like, 109K in undeposited funds. I mean, that's like the last thing you want to see in the morning, right? I mean, specifically, that's the last thing you guys want to see. But then I can drill down. But don't forget to, like, right-click, duplicate, right, before you drill down so you don't lose your summary report because you might have customized that or... And then, you know, that's the only thing with, like, desktop, you can just toggle back and forth with the open window list.
Right.
In QBO, you know, back to summary, but you might have, I mean, you can always go back to summary, but I like, before I drill down on the undeposited funds, I might first, you know, right-click, duplicate it. So I have two windows open. And then the detail report will actually be in a separate tab, right? So I can move it over to another monitor too. So I got the detail report over here, and then summary. You can't see the detail report anymore, but then I have the summary over here, right? So there's that. I mean, the tab. I mean, yes, I like the app. Maybe you guys use the Windows app. It's definitely more viable because of the multiple company files you can have. I just am so used to. I mean, a creature of habit. I grew up on desktop, and then I moved to QBO or started supporting in 2009. So I just am used to Chrome. It's just same kind of deal. I mean, you use whatever works for you.
So, do you go comparing it to desktop? Do you just X out on the client when you want to close that company's file?
Yeah, well, oh yeah, right. Well, I do file close now because I heard after so many years of using desktop that when you hit the X, it actually can lead to data damage over years. So I go to file close company, right?
Funny.
Right. So, but I hear you. I mean, don't. Yeah, I adopted that practice several years ago, but for desktop. But QBO, I typically just, you can go to the gear icon, sign out, or I'll just X out, or I'll go back to QBOA. But yeah, you could literally just X out. That's fine too. That doesn't harm anything. Desktop, I go file, you know, exit, or close company, then exit. Yeah.
Right, close company.
So we don't have
Yep.
to close in QBA.
Yes. Yeah. So the browser's different. It doesn't really harm anything if you just hit the X.
But the app does?
Well, no, I don't think the app does either. But I know desktop. I would just be leery of that one.
It's just safe to go file company code. Okay.
And I know we have a hard stop in a couple minutes. Were there any other questions?
That's it. I think that's it.
That's good. Okay. Well, and we can also, and I'll talk to James and Keith about it, we can schedule a follow-up session. We covered a lot today, so hopefully you guys are able to see some things that are going to help you in your day-to-day work as you guys are onboarding clients at QuickBooks Online. I'm going to forward over an email with just some demos, additional information on training, as well as directions on finding the certification within the Pro Advisor tab. So you guys have all of that available to you. But besides that, I'd love to, if we do need to cover some additional topics, schedule something for a future date so that we can make sure we're seeing everything that we need to.
I kind of like to go over manual payroll calculations, but we can cover it another time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
No, well, thanks for your time. Thanks for giving me some extra time as well.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Very good.
Yep, talk to you again. Take care. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Woody.
Bye. So do I just close the box?